Plastic pollution is poisoning the sea and land around the world. It is injuring and killing marine animals, and it is a threat to human health because it gets into the food we eat. Blue Planet 2 hit our TV screens, and millions of us watched simultaneously in wonder and horror at the beauty of our world and the plastic pollution which is killing it.
Around the world, 8 million tonnes of plastic makes its way into the oceans each year. The problem was vividly highlighted in the BBC's recent Blue Planet 2 series, which was public service broadcasting at its finest.
Many believe that plastic pollution is the single biggest threat to our environment. So what are our elected representatives doing about it?
Well, right now the government has made a big drive of this. Michael Gove has said this is what he wants to do. The Prime Minister has made this announcement quite recently. So there's a lot of pressure coming onto businesses to use stuff, but a lot of that pressure can come from people, from consumers, people like you and me, who say, I don't really want to be forced with the choice of having to use this stuff. What are the alternatives? So, beginning to ask the question, can we find alternatives that we can use that make it easier for recycling? The problem you've got is plastic, by and large, is very difficult to recycle. It is recyclable, but for the moment, only about 4% of all plastic objects can be recycled to something else. The rest, by and large, goes into a landfill, or sometimes it's used for something else, but it's used as a plastic.
Over 13 billion plastic bottles each year are used in the UK. That is 36 million plastic bottles every day.
We want to wind down the use of plastic bottles. When you've got one-use plastic, it's just fueling the amount of plastic in circulation around the world and in Britain, and we need to bring that down because of the obvious dangers. If the government signed the Blue Belt Charter, which is what I want them to do and what I think most people in the Labour Party and in some other parties as well want them to do, it would protect British waters, the life in British waters, but it would also protect marine life and other forms of life around British overseas territories, which is a huge expanse of water.
In Waltham Forest, we're very lucky. We can probably just about recycle everything apart from black plastic, which is and that's a global issue. The technology just does not exist yet to be able to sort black plastic out from everything else, as well as having a reprocessing market for black plastic at the end of it, and that hard, brittle plastic that you tend to see mostly in toys. And we have what they call an energy from waste facility. You may have seen it. It's Edmonton. It's a huge tall chimney stack opposite IKEA. And what we do is any of our residual waste that we can't recycle or we can't reuse goes into that, and it burns it, and it creates electricity for the national grid, and we sell that electricity, and as a consequence we keep our waste disposal costs in Waltham Forest very low. But we also need industry, the manufacturers, the retailers, the packing industry. We need them to start changing the way they do things. We need those people to wake up and smell the coffee as well, to make a real difference and start to improve our oceans.
The government promised a ban on plastic microbeads, which are used in beauty products such as facial scrubs, in 2016. The microbeads end up in the sea as waste, are consumed by marine life as they mistake it for food, and then are ultimately consumed by humans who eat fish and seafood.
Well, the Green Party is really keen that we deal with this terrible plastic pollution that is filling our oceans, it's filling our rivers. And we've just recently learned here in the London Assembly about the way that plastic pollution is combining with fat in our sewers and is causing £12 million a year of work for Thames Water to get rid of it when it makes itself into fatbergs in the sewers. So plastic in our everyday lives is causing so many problems, and obviously the Green Party just wants to make sure that at every level of government we're tackling it properly.
In March 2018, the government announced the introduction of a deposit return scheme to all drink containers. Consumers will pay more for their drinks, but they'll get their money back when they return the containers.
It has to be a good idea that we incentivize people to recycle their bottles, their drinks containers, and if they get some money back, then they're going to be much more likely to recycle them, and that will be pure recycling that can be, the materials can be properly recovered. Whereas when it goes into the commingled recycling, just on, you know, in everyday recycling from our homes, it often gets a bit contaminated with food or other things, and so it can't all be used so well. So the good thing about deposit return scheme is that, of course, it'll mean we get much more material that can be properly reused.
There has been an 83% reduction in the use of plastic bags in the UK since the government introduced the 5p charge in 2015. And they're now talking about extending the levy to small businesses, such as corner shops.
The plastic bag charge, it just shows that, you know, if you charge people 5p for a plastic bag, they make the effort to bring a reusable bag with them, and that you can bring about change. And I think that should inspire us all to be much more ambitious and to get many, many more of these disposable plastic items, single-use plastic items out of our lives.
In April, the government announced that they will look into banning plastic straws and cotton buds. The pace appears rapid and the race is on to protect and save the planet's oceans and wildlife from plastic pollution.
Well, I think the government is moving very fast. Literally only in the last 2 days you've seen them talk now about banning certain plastic products, forcing companies to think about using some alternative. And I think that's part of the drive. Theresa May has made it her personal objective. I think in this, the UK is at the moment leading the way on the misuse of plastics, and I think that's the key.
We've all seen these terrible images of people scuba diving in the ocean with just plastic all around them, in amongst the fish. We have to just completely change our attitude to the products that we're using. We cannot go on just, you know, you get a takeaway and you have a fork, you use it once and you throw it away. That fork is going to be there forever because it's plastic. We've just got to change the way that we manage our day-to-day lives. So things like, you know, sandwich shops, products that people use for their lives, period products, disposable razors, you know, all of those things that have become very normal in our everyday lives. We've got to get the plastic out of them.
So how can you help to end plastic pollution? Think about the plastic products you use.
Well, first of all, it's to use a greater level of taxation to bring people aware that the plastic they use is very difficult to recycle, and that people should try and use less plastic. If they do use plastic, they should try and use plastic which is what's called continuous use plastic, not one-use plastic, such as straws.
Well, I think it's about ambition, and I think that we need to be, you know, the government, they're doing the easy stuff, but the more difficult stuff, the stuff around air pollution, where it means changing the way that business as usual, like with getting people not to drive cars so much, that's where they fall short and they stop. But I welcome all the stuff they're doing, you know, on this low-hanging fruit, the easy bits that they're changing, but obviously they need to do far, far more.
So how can you help to end plastic pollution? Think about the plastic products you use. Reject, reduce, reuse and recycle plastics. End plastic pollution.